Certainty is a heavy mask, and wisdom begins with a single word we rarely say. I don't know. The line sounds simple, yet cuts through noise. In Athens, a man named Socrates walked the streets and asked why people believed they knew what they claimed to know. He didn't tee-hawk theories to win debates. He sharpened lives with questions. The oracle at Delphi had declared him the wisest because he knew what he did not know. That paradox is the heartbeat of his philosophy. Wisdom starts in the soil of ignorance and grows when questions water it. But the first thing we must understand is what Socrates meant by wisdom. He did not claim to possess a catalog of facts about the stars, the state, or virtue. He claimed to know how to live well. And he believed that knowing the good required a lifelong examination of our own beliefs. To him, knowledge without virtue was hollow, and virtue without knowledge was dangerous. He saw intelligence as a tool for moral discernment, not a weapon for victory. When he entered a conversation, he did not lecture so much as he apprenticed you into your own thinking. He would ask, in a calm, almost playful tone, a question that unsettled your certainty. What is courage? What is piety? What is justice? And as you spoke, you found your own words turning against themselves. The process, called Elenchus, is not about crushing you with a single punch of authority. It's about exposing the cracks where your beliefs rest on quick assumptions rather than tested reasoning. Socrates knew that a single confident claim can look like wisdom to the careless, and only an unguarded mind could mistake certainty for truth. Consider his conversation with Euthyphro, a man who claims to know what is holy. The dialogue doesn't tee in with a neat verdict about piety. Instead, it disassembles the very idea of holiness into a series of questions that require deeper moral reflection. If something is holy because the gods approve it, do the gods approve it because it is holy, or is it holy because the gods approve it? The sentence folds back on itself, and we step back with a humbler sense of what we do not yet understand. The aim is not triumph over another person, but the alignment of our lives with a standard that matters beyond clever rhetoric. Socrates wanted to know the limits of human knowledge, and he invited others to test theirs. He called out the market-esque confidence in clever speeches by becoming the antidote to swagger, a relentless, patient interrogation that reveals not just what we think, but why we think it. He did not pretend to deliver a final formula. He offered a method. The method is a map, not the territory. It invites you to walk slowly, to pause before the next assertion, to examine the motive behind your belief, and to consider how your life would look if your convictions were wrong. In that sense, wisdom is not a possession, but a practice. Then there is the moral arc of his life. Socrates did not go to the academy to gather students. He wandered the streets, turning strangers into interlocutors, forcing them to see themselves more clearly. He argued that virtue is knowledge, or at least that to know the good is to do the good. If you fail to do the good, perhaps you have not truly understood it. The line between knowing and doing becomes thin, almost a hinge on which moral life swings. This insistence on unity, knowing, and living rightly made his method both luminous and dangerous. He challenged powerful men and comfortable certainties, and Athens, in its fear of disruption, saw him as a gadfly, unnecessary and dangerous to the status quo. The twist in his story is not that he proved everyone wrong, but that he illuminated a universal vulnerability. We cling to certainty because uncertainty feels like surrender. Socrates showed that surrendering to certainty is not courage. It is a form of dulling the mind to discomfort. The paradox is that the more you pursue wisdom, the more you confront your own fragility. You realize that the distance between your beliefs and your lived life is where wisdom either grows or withers. The unexamined life is not a blanket of comfort, but a torch that throws light on the corners you would rather forget. And here is a second twist. Knowledge is not only about facts, but about questions that keep a person honest. Socrates did not claim to have solved the moral riddles of his age. He claimed to have kept the questions alive. A mind that keeps questions alive is a mind that refuses to surrender to easy conclusions. Modern readers may misread him as merely a dissenting skeptic, but his aim was not cynicism. It was moral fidelity. If you ask only to be right, you miss the chance to be wiser tomorrow. If you ask to be useful, you allow your ignorance to become a doorway rather than a wall. The questions matter because the answers can still be wrong. And wrong answers teach us more about what we think we know. So what did Socrates really know about wisdom? He knew that wisdom begins with humility, with the permission to be wrong, with the discipline to test every belief under the cold light of reason. He understood that wisdom is not a certificate earned by arguing well, but a kind of moral acuity, the ability to sense when a choice will hollow out the soul or strengthen it. He would remind us that a life of thinking must be lived, not stored. A life where our questions shape not just our opinions, but our character. The very act of questioning becomes a kind of care for the self and for others. A stance of listening more than insisting, of staying curious even when the price is social discomfort. In that sense, wisdom is relational as much as it is solitary. It thrives whenever dialogue becomes a shared search. Yet the social fate of his wisdom is a warning. When a city prizes conformity over inquiry, the questions can be branded as a threat. Socrates paid for curiosity with his life, not because he offered dangerous doctrines, but because he refused to declare allegiance to the easy story that the city wanted to hear. The jury's verdict that he corrupted the youth was not only a political act. It was a fear of a mind that would not bow to easy certainties. His death does not negate his insight. It intensifies the puzzle. If the widely accepted wisdom cannot bear the test of questioning, then perhaps wisdom is not a product of crowds, but a call to stand with conscience even when the crowd stands against you. What remains after the axiom that Socrates knew nothing and yet taught everything worth knowing? The answer is not a doctrine, but a practice you can adopt. Let your mind carry a lit lamp into the darkest corners of your beliefs. Let your conversations be laboratories where you test ideas without turning people into enemies. Let your own life become the proof of your questions rather than the defense of your opinions. In a time when certainty is marketed, Socrates offers a different currency, the priceless, stubborn coin of intellectual humility. He invites you to become a curious guardian of your own reason, to care about truth more than victory, and to measure wisdom by how well it guides your choices when you are most tempted to pretend. If you take one thread from his life, take this. Wisdom is not a fountain you stumble upon. It is a practice you undertake. It is the habit of pausing before you rush to judgment, the discipline of listening before you lecture, the courage to admit you might be wrong before you claim you are right. In that gentle, demanding space, you begin to understand what Socrates meant when he said the most important job is to know thyself, not to master the world, but to become capable of governing your own mind with honesty. The road to wisdom is not a monument. It is a labor of daily attention. So as you examine your own beliefs, imagine a scene from ancient Athens, a street, a small crowd, a man who asks one question after another, not to humiliate you, but to awaken you. The effect is not a punchline. It is a shift in perception. The proof of wisdom does not lie in winning arguments. It lies in becoming more capable of choosing rightly when the stakes are high. And that is perhaps the kind of wisdom Socrates actually knew. That the courage to be wrong is the first stubborn seed of being right. And that living well is a discipline, not as you carry this with you. Ask yourself what questions your life needs right now. What belief would you test if you refuse to hide behind the safety of certainty? What habit would you prune if it meant you might grow truly wiser? Socrates did not give us a rule book for certainty. He handed us a method for living with questions, a way to keep the mind nimble and the heart awake. If we practice that, we are already practicing wisdom in the oldest sense. the sense that wisdom is the art of staying present with what we do not yet know. And perhaps that small humility is... We end here where he began, with a question that keeps us breathing, that keeps us living, that keeps us listening. What is wisdom, after all, if not the quiet, persistent refusal to pretend we have all the answers? The invites us to try again tomorrow, to listen longer, to ask better questions, and to live with the humility that makes wisdom possible. The rest, as Socrates would remind us, is a matter of time, of courage, and of